Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Kremling.
And I'm Jimmy Stormbliss. Today we are diving into Wind and Truth preview chapters 23 and 24. It's funny that we're saying preview chapters. We'd like to say chapters. I mean, they're not like snippets. They're full-blown chapters. But if you're not reading the Wind and Truth preview chapters, or you haven't read all of Stormlight, we would suggest you come back at a later time because we are going to be talking full spoilers for the series. And if we do any Cosmere references, we will make sure to let you know that we're about to do that before you get spoiled if you haven't gotten caught up on all the Cosmere. So without any further ado, Christian, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in puppy dad mode. I'm in the search for a puppy this week, which is really exciting and stressful. Mm-hmm. But because my problem is every puppy I see, I'm like, oh, yes, you're the one, mate. I will raise you and we will have great memories and conquer the world. I think every fantasy fan kind of wants like the animal companion dream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So the more it like resembles a kind of fantasy creature, the more I'm invested. So that's been my week, dude. So I left these chapters till the very last minute. Both of us did.
Yes, I just read them. Yeah.
Yeah. And also the launch of Black Ops 6 has kept us away from any sort of productive activities. So we're like, oh, got to read.
Yeah, I got to be 16 again. You know, I need to kind of thrive in that. Have you considered getting a Chol instead of a dog?
You know, Chol might be too big for my place. I could do an axe hound, maybe.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Ooh, and see, the thing with an axe hound is it's the classic, like, oh, it's a fantasy pet that's clearly a dog, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's like Carapace. You can't really give it a good scratch or something, you know?
I think it would scratch back. I don't know if it...
Like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. You need to cuddle with your pet, and I don't want to cuddle an axe hound. I'm not about that.
Not the name doesn't invite cuddles.
No, but it could be a good guard dog or something.
Sounds sharp and hurtful.
Yeah. You know what? Speaking of like companions and like mascots of fantasy, how long until this Flamespren Bippy is all over the merch store? What do you reckon?
I assume it's being produced right now. And by one day, we'll have a Sanderson weekly update on YouTube where it'll be announced that they're coming out. I assume.
Yeah. Honestly, like the way it was described, I'm like, oh, there's the plushie. There's the plushie.
He's just doing marketing inside of his books now. God, no, don't do it.
It's like, it said like, quote unquote, fuzzy or something. Like it's fuzzy hair. I'm like, oh, okay.
My God. My God.
I'm not going to lie, though. I was kind of like, yeah, he's pretty cute, though. His little eyeballs.
I blame capitalism, bro.
Is this when you launch your new cryptocurrency?
Yes, we need to abandon paper currency and get with the times. Check out the Chol coin.
Oh, Chol coin. That's pretty good.
Chol coin has a good ring to it.
It does. Speaking of that as well, with like bad puns and stuff, I think you raging at the audience last week was amazing. Because I don't know if you've checked the spanreed department of Lost in Roshar, but we are drowning.
The amount of emails we get is shocking.
But like when you were just like, frankly, I've had enough. You know, where's the interaction? We got like 20 spanreeds that day. It's just like boof.
So that's what we call a call to action.
Yeah. In the biz.
In the biz, like whenever we get sponsors over at Bend the Knee, we have a call to action section, and you gotta get in the ears.
Sponsors, so you can get sponsors for podcasts. I've heard about that.
I'm wondering when Dragonsteel is going to stop by, or somebody. For the love of God.
I mean, if you want to market something to Stormlight fans, we've got a pretty good little niche here.
Yeah, we could definitely find something for Stormlight fans. Like, I think a lot out there probably like marbles. I don't know why. I just get the feeling that Stormlight fans like marbles. Do you like marbles? Did you ever play with marbles?
My dad, growing up in like the 60s, has like an epic marble collection.
Oh,
that he's still got. That I was, you know, loaned out at select times as a child. He's still pretty like, no, those are my prized toys. But like, yeah. I never really got into the massive craze of. It was more like Pokemon cards when I was growing up. Was that?
There was no massive craze when we were growing up for marbles. No. There was no. Okay, it was dead. It was already dead in the water. I had them because I grew up poor, So it was like, here's some round balls that are smooth that you can like shoot at each other. And I was like, okay, that's fine. To try to ignore the fact I couldn't afford Pokemon cards. But this is a prime podcast to be sponsored by Marbles, I think.
I think so. Or, I'm sure they want to get a free week of ExpressVPN or
you got to protect yourself when you're going in the shades more. I mean, it's dude, it's so easy.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I'd have so much fun with ads like that.
I actually love doing ad reads. I think they're very fun.
Yeah. One day when we can be like bothered putting in a slight bit more effort to make some money
Send out inquiry emails and stuff.
It sounds like a lot of work. That's okay. I'm here to talk about Stormlight, and we had these chapters are very snappy. To be honest, I
thought the first one went a little long, but it was all pretty interesting stuff. And like I was kind of holding my breath when we got to the Navani stuff with the Spren, because I was thinking all Rhythm of War flashbacks, the stuff that I wasn't super duper into. But I actually thought that for the most part, it was pretty interesting. And I like these chapters quite a bit. It's always funny to me. I only look at the little comment section below the chapters on Reactor or whatever it's called. And I feel like there's always one person like, light chapters this week, kind of disappointing. And I'm always like, just like, I don't know, man. As someone who's tries to be like balanced and nuanced, like I just find that there's stuff in every one of these chapters. Like this book so far just feels like it's packed full of stuff.
It just feels like Sanderson's balancing like 10,000 plates right now. And he's trying to get a little bit, get a bit of lore, bit of character work. It's a lot. Right.
I'm going to be dead honest with you. You probably don't feel this way because you have such a grasp on all this, but like, I do feel like a little lost at times. Like I've almost, it's kind of staggering how much we're keeping track of, especially like for the podcast and trying to like get theories and connect and make predictions and whatever. I wish I had time to reread Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and Rhythm of War again, specifically the last Rhythm of War and Oathbringer. I think I definitely need to reread, but, there's times where I get a little lost in the sauce. Sanderson tells the story in a way where you're going to get brought along and clued in no matter what, which is cool.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I read tons of fantasy books. I've read Malazan. I've read some of the other stuff that's a little bit tougher to follow at times. And I always hear just about how much easier Stormlight is than those type of series. But I'm here going into book 5 and I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like if you're really trying to grasp it all, it's a lot. And I don't mean that as a negative. I think that's really awesome. Like these books are things that you can dedicate a whole lot of time to, which is awesome. You're getting your money's worth.
Yeah, I think it's also the attitude around Sanderson's book, at least the attitude we have, which it's almost like a giant mystery or puzzle that we're trying to figure out at a lot of times.
Yeah. And we're in the moment. We're here right now in the present. And like we said this whenever we started the preview chapters, but like once this book's out, things are going to be put to bed that you'll never hear about again.
Yeah.
Let's say Baby Champion Theory dies in this book, right? Which a lot of people just said, it better die. I hate the Baby Champion Theory. But once it's dead, it's gone. And in 10 years, no one will ever talk about it again.
Well, I'll just talk about
we were here for it.
The idiots that were so invested in it. Such as ourselves. Yeah, we've actually fossilized our bad takes and opinions in an audio format. Oh God, we have
kind of funny.
Yeah, look, I have a feeling that even if the Baby and Champion Theory dies, I'll still dig my heels in and be like, the Baby Champion Theory lives as long as it's in the hearts of men. And it's in my heart.
You're right.
So yeah, but look, I think that's the attitude of. I mean, the Cosmere as a whole, it's like, like I said, it's kind of like a puzzle, and the fandom loves kind of picking it apart. And also Sanderson fosters that environment where he's very open in interviews and panels where he'll answer your lore questions or leave things up for interpretation. So like you kind of feel more inclined. Whereas when I read Malazan, I was just like, I'll never know. And that's okay.
No, that's not always true. That's not always true.
But like it was like, look, I know, because I was only in Gardens of the Moon. But I had a different attitude. I was like, I'm okay with not knowing. That's part of the experience. With Sanderson, it's like, but I could maybe figure that out if I just applied some time to it, did a little.
That is true. Yeah, no, that is true. Yes, I think that is something that I feel as well, which makes me feel almost a little bit more frustrated when I'm not understanding something at times. But it's just ironic. I don't know. I think about this all the time. People put things in buckets. And I'm
Yes.
like, well, depending on who's the one opening up the pages and reading them, it could be a completely different thing. And I'm just being transparent that I am very, at times, maybe not even confused is the word, but maybe overwhelmed or
I get you.
Or trying to, but it's another great thing, and we use it all the time, is Coppermind. I mean, there's a lot of series out there that don't have that level of wiki or information out there, and it's a shame. It's a shame. I wish every series did, because it makes it a lot easier to be a fan of and to dive in deeper and get obsessive, which is definitely some of the most fun things about being a fantasy fan, is when series do that. So, I still just think it's amazing how much is going on in these books, but specifically here in book 5. I think part 1, me and you both had to get our feet down and kind of in the dirt, get some footing. But now, ever since these interludes, I've just been pretty much in, dude. I'm back. I love it.
Back.
So 23 and 24. The first one, we get a whole bunch of Shallan and Red and Gaz, Ghostblood phenomenon, and then we end up getting some Navani's sibling, which is pretty interesting as well. And then we move into 24, which I didn't know this, but this is a chapter that's already been read by Sanderson years ago, and Christian had to clue me in. And actually, it's only half of the chapter that he read back then, so you're actually aware of where it's going to go. I'm not ask you not to tell me, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I won't tell you anything. Yeah.
Okay, good, because I just want to experience it, because I didn't listen to when he read it. So.
Yeah. If you guys
cliffhanger.
Yeah, if you guys want, I've got a video from 2 years ago. I dive deep into this chapter.
Oh, that's funny. I probably watched it then.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten it then. That's really funny.
I watched it this morning. I was like, it's just so weird watching your old videos. It is a weird experience.
Were you cooking?
I was cooking. Of course I was cooking, mate.
Let him cook.
Mr. Stormlight.
All right.
No, but I found my old notes on it. I'm like, this is so helpful. You've cut my episode prep time in half. But the thing I was missing back then was like a huge amount of context, because now I was all about the stones back then, but not the wind. So the wind stuff stood out to me more this week, and
the flute.
The flute stood out to me back then too. But I also cross-referenced the chapters, and he's done a few little like wording / lore changes, which we can discuss when we get to that too. So yeah, I mean, I was hoping he would, like there's a whole other part to this chapter that was originally one. I kind of wish it went there, because I'm really keen to talk about that stuff. But if you want to hear me talk about it 2 years ago, it's on my channel. It's like Szeth chapter explained or something. So yeah.
Back when Christian had a little more pep in his step. He said those bright lights in his eyes.
Literally a big ring light in my face. I'm like, oh, I didn't miss this.
Hey, can I do my impersonation of you opening up the video?
Oh, no. Yeah, of course.
Hey, guys, it's Christian.
Guys, welcome back to the Fantasy Network.
Why'd you make me sound like a dweeb?
Because I have to get you back. This is
I made you sound soft-spoken, but you still sounded cool.
All right, let me try it again. Hey, I'm Jimmy from the Fantasy Network, and welcome to...
It's more dweeb. It's more dweeb. It says I have less confidence. Lost in discovery.
Oh, no. I'm like a British librarian. Hello. Oh, man.
Christian, have you ever been to Brisbane?
Oh, don't get me started. Jimmy is one of the few Americans who can pronounce Australian cities just right. And it's one of the best qualities you can have as a foreigner, to say Brisbane, Melbourne. It's great.
I've been told I'm a crappy American, and I'm usually better in other countries. So maybe I'm in the wrong. Maybe I was born in the wrong area. I don't know.
Oh, man, I can't wait to meet you in Australia one day. It's going to be the greatest.
I'm going to punch you directly in the face when I see you. As hard as I possibly can.
That's the traditional greeting here. That's fine.
Oi! Just.
And I'll wipe a single tear.
I'm just going to ask where Crocodile Dundee is the entire time.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Yeah, we need to do like a real life Lost in Roshar road trip.
I feel like if we meet in person, or when we do, the last thing on our minds will be recording. I'll be honest.
I think so, yeah. I think so. It would just be like, where's the pub?
Yeah, where's the pub?
And,
mate.
Yeah. All right, man. This first chapter, I'm gonna have a controversial take. I much prefer the Navani section. I don't know.
I'm with you, actually.
I don't know why the Shallan Ghostblood stuff is not like it's good. It's just like I'm like, okay, yeah.
I know it's going to pay off, but I
is.
will say this. I think that a bit of that feels almost episodic to me, or like procedural. It's hard to put my finger on it. But remember when we started this book and we said that it kind of felt like we had to like get our starting steps, starting mission. Like your mission this book is to do this. I'm still getting that feeling from Shallan a bit.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, like, I think it's going to pay off, and I'm so interested in the Ghostbloods and Marays and things. And I have an idea maybe of what we can talk about, because I'm probably wrong, because I'm probably missing a lot of like the knowledge around the Ghostbloods and their motivations. And I know that there's other Cosmere books that everyone's telling me to read, which I should probably just do that. But I agree. Now, the one thing that did make this a bit more interesting is that I am now fully reading this with the intent that Red is a Ghostblood, and that's how I'm reading this from now on. That's just it. Or Gaz, Red or Gaz.
You've made me have the same skepticism. So I was.
Well, Gaz knows how to choke someone, and she's like, I didn't understand why he knew that, and the gambling addiction. So I remember, what was the last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago, I was saying that Gaz is definitely someone that could be, twisted or turned due to his vices. And I still believe that. So I'm very sus of Red and Gaz until further notice. And I'm just operating with the headcanon that they're going to turn on Shallan.
And there's another woman in their team, starts with D. I'm forgetting her name. But they're like, why did you take so long? And she's like, oh, I had to rally everyone. Didn't you remember? So there's like a few little lines that make you think, oh, is there an insider? And probably is. It's an espionage plot. There's going to be a twist. So, you never know. It's so funny. I have very little notes for this section, but basically they're infiltrating. We've gotten like one level further. We're in the base. There's some choking out, costume changes, pattern listening in on conversations, using Shallan using her armor spread was very cool to like lock someone into place. And also quite terrifying, as just imagining being a victim of that, just like completely encased in like a sarcophagus. Bit scary.
Yeah, it definitely is. And then we have the whole mask thing, right? So we know that she's going to be able to trick the Ghostbloods, which I think she's actually done before. But I was seeing some of the comments talking about Scadrial masks. And
yeah, so, I mean, okay, look, if you really want to like stay away from some Mistborn lore, it's pretty light, guys, but I'll timestamp it just in case. It's just the lore stuff. But basically, in Era 2, we discover these a whole subset of people on Scadrial living on like the southern continent or the southern portion, and they all wear masks. It's like their thing. So masks exactly as they're described here. So I'm supposing they've joined the Ghostbloods, and that sort of tradition has spread in the organization.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just from there. And it kind of checks out because like when they are switching outfits and stuff, and they find a crap load of knives on that lady with the mask, and it's like, yeah, so she's probably a Mistborn person. Checks out that she'd have 1 billion knives,
Yeah. So I mean, that part was pretty interesting, and we do get the sense that we're about to fall into something very deep and dark, and there's going to be a lot of fallout coming because she's walking into the den, whether to be predator or prey, and this is kind of Shallan's make or break moment. We all feel, I think most people feel like this is the beginning of a new arc for Shallan, not just the end of the arc of the first 5 books, but Shallan is a Cosmere character, not just a Stormlight character. So I think we're going to tumble down this hill, and we're going to be gaining speed all the way up into the end of the book, and just more and more things are going to fall into place as we go in. Yes. It's also, Marays, like who is Marays?
Yeah, I want, what I can't wait to do? One day it'll be the ultimate Ghostblood video, and I want like the tree, like almost like the family tree of the Ghostbloods, who's boss and who reports to who, like the whole red tape on the walls kind of situation. Because like it's cool to see people from schedule and in the Ghostbloods, but I want to see how like the Rosharian subset was created. Like, how do you contact someone? Hey, so we're from another planet.
Yeah.
We've got this kind of like god figure we're working for. And like, how do you even get a foot in the door? Do you know what I mean? I would love to see it more of
Yeah,
that.
and how do the jurisdictions talk to one another? Is it like in the U.S., a great way of committing a crime is living in one county and then murdering someone in a different one because the counties don't talk to each other and
This is
stuff?
going to get taken out of context.
Well, that's fine. You know what? I encourage it, honestly.
Just completely dead, but a great way to go about it.
I mean, a great way. Not that I've done it, but
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's jump into the Navani stuff, because the Navani stuff. I mean, we got Spren, we got Sibling, we got Dalinar, we got talking about shards.
Dude, there's a lot in this part. Is there anything? I feel bad, but was there more in the Shallan thing? Or is it that straightforward?
Oh, we're gonna, people will let us know.
Okay, all right, Navani, let's do it.
I'm sure people will let us know, but let's spend. Hey, we're spending time on what we thought was super duper interesting.
Okay.
And we're always happy to hear when people point out things. So, feel free to do it in a kind manner. That's always wonderful to see. The number one thing here about the Navani section, and this might be my favorite thing in the entire book so far, is Sanderson willing to re-engage with the classism debate.
Yes.
That was so prevalent in the first two novels, and I felt really took a backseat in Oathbringer Rhythm of War, and actually is one of my biggest gripes with the series, is because I felt like it's way too embedded into the structure of the society to kind of be thrown upon, or I'm sorry, thrown out.
Yes.
And the fact that he's revisiting, one, great. Two, reminds you this is a 10-book series, so things are going to come in and out of purview. And it's true, they are fighting an invasion, so that's kind of been put to the side. But we see the writing on the wall, and I think that there's a very good chance that this is not only going to be relevant here in this book, and I think it will be, but I think also, but we can look at the back half of Stormlight and how this is going to change a lot of the structures in society. So I that's my favorite part of the chapter. It's thematic, so you know me, I like my themes. I think that this is a huge win for Sanderson overall, in a really good way of maybe quieting some of the criticisms that this dropped.
Yeah, I thought he dealt. It was so nice to see it. I felt the exact same as you. I was worried it was just going to be like, well, we got Radiance now. Don't worry about it. So it was really good, and I like how Navani's like, you know what, the Dark Eyes have like centuries of built up resentment and rage. Like, you have no idea, dude. Like, what are you complaining about?
Yeah, he's like, what is it? Aladar. Aladar is like, we're brewing, we're blah, blah, and she's like, yeah, well, guess what? The Dark Eyes have been brewing for far longer, and you don't want to have that wrath. And I'm just like, tell him.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, and Dalinar and them are abolishing slavery. It's all good stuff. But I like how it was almost, it almost felt a little meta, like addressing the audience in some degree. It's like, hey, we've got a war on, so obviously that's on hold, but we'll get to it. We'll get to that plot line pretty soon. Let's just deal with this champion.
Do you think it's going to go maybe lead to some treachery by the end of this book?
Treachery in what sense? What do you mean?
Oh, we're not willing to fight in some of these battles. We're pulling out.
Oh,
the old Sadius.
Oh God, that would make me so mad if the Light Eyes like,
right?
We're not playing because now all the Dark Eyes can fly. Speaking of like a lot of callbacks in this chapter, not only to like plot lines but to characters too. Did you spot the shout out to some of our favorite interlude characters? Did you notice this?
I did, but I'd like for you to tell me more.
Okay, yeah. So like when Rushu is like doing the Flamespren experiment, she's like, hey Navani, have you read the works of Geranid and Ashir? And they're like the two the old couple from the Way of Kings.
One of my favorite interludes in my review of that book. That was one of the things that I raved about and how much I loved it.
Yeah, I loved that shout out. Cool. And they're updating their research, because now they know that if you like praise, like they did the measurement scene in the Way of Kings, and now they realize if you praise them, they like form a bond, which is just like pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, captivity's bad, but what if they have shifts? that's probably better.
I'm not gonna lie to you though. Did you have this little moment where it was like, maybe just don't do any of that at all then?
Yeah, I was
okay,
like,
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I was like, I was kind of like the sibling. I'm like, they kind of still, but like if they seem happy enough, and if they think it's like a job, like, all right, my 9 to 5 is like this heater, cool. And then I go back
but
to
being
my
forced
flame.
into it,
Well, is it forced? They're complimenting them. I don't know. It's such a funny discussion. Like the flame spread working the heater. Is this ethical?
I started making real world comparisons and then felt super uncomfortable and was just like, I'm just gonna read this for what it is in a story about fantasy.
Yeah, because we could go into like so many deep topics of the real world.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's just I'm kind of like the guy who's like, I'm voting for Flare. I think it should be a Flare or Flamespren.
Just give me my plushie and leave me be, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bippy, come on. I mean,
Bippy, what a name.
Look, I'm an anime fan, so I love a good mascot, like cute character. I'll take Bippy. That sounds cool. Yeah. So that was a throwback, and then we saw like Sabarial again.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I feel like we're doing the tour. I mean, and Aladar has also been a background character, being a pain in the butt ever since the Way of Kings 2. And then we got the Rushu, like the non-binary stuff. That was pretty neat.
Cool. So Rushu, do you think Rushu is Kandra? Because this is becoming more and more popular among the fandom.
Well, the question is Sanderson just wanting to include a non-binary character, or is he slipping in a Kandra? And this is like, I don't know, is the answer. It felt more to me like he wanted
to explore that maybe in Roshar.
To explore that and make it, it felt, I think so. Because he makes a point of her like ignoring the advances of all the boys as she's setting up for Navani. Like all these guys are fawning over her and she's not interested. I'm like, okay, it's interesting that he'd mentioned that. And then when she's talking to the sibling, she's like, no, I totally understand how you feel. So like that was cool. That was like a cool little thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's like this classic thing of whenever you're talking about a Sanderson book, you're like character building or Kandra
or massive, implications.
Yeah, so I just thought that was cool. Did you get a bit? Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to hear your question.
Well, like I know you felt like you were kind of saying you felt a little lost in the source this week, or a bit overwhelmed. Was it the Flamespren stuff or something else with Navani?
Yeah, Flamespren stuff, but also like just trying to figure out the Shallan stuff. And like, honestly, I kind of felt like I should have got more out of it than I did. And also just trying to remember everything about the Ghostbloods and also just like what there is to dive into. So one of the connections between these two things, and I wonder if this is why they are paired together. And now I'm about to throw out something. Someone's going to be like, it's obviously not right because of this, and that's fine. But so we get a thing about a shard, right? And shards being left alone.
Yes.
Okay. And it sounds super dangerous, and it almost starts becoming a thing, like physical or something. Like it was very ominous of what it was
like it becomes
about.
Like sentient and starts making its own choices and stuff.
Yeah. So part of me, we're thinking about the Stormfather actually being Tanavas and then our honor or something, whatever. But dude, what if this thing's sitting around?
I think I'm following what you're getting at.
What if the Ghostbloods take honor?
Yeah.
Okay. So you agree? Okay, that's the first thing that popped in my head when I finished this chapter. Right. I was like, I think he's setting up something where the Ghostbloods hijack honor.
Can you imagine? Right? Can you imagine if the character wink wink nudge nudge, if you know, who is in charge of the Ghostbloods takes up a shard? That would be insane.
Or captures it or something.
Yeah.
Because remember, we're also sitting here talking about capturing Spren and keeping them in captivity.
Oh, man. And why are you writing these books, Jimmy? Come on.
I mean, hey, I'm just saying, bro, that that's what I got out of this. I was thinking, man, them Ghostbloods.
Nice connection.
Have an opportunity. There's an opening here.
Yeah, like how common is this knowledge, right? And I had the same question as Navani, who's like, dude, he's been dead for ages. So why hasn't he? Why hasn't
Yes.
Honor like done anything? Why are we worrying right now? I don't know. There seems to be some gaps.
We're gonna get them all filled in. I'm sure, but
yeah.
also it's one of those things where Odium did flip into Taravangian, so that has for me, I think that's a pretty big catalyst of things changing.
Yeah.
So maybe that has something to do with it, but I know we'll find out eventually. But
there's
it
just
feels like there's like this nuclear bomb just waiting to be picked up, I think the Ghostbloods maybe they want to take it off world.
Yeah, God, I wonder if you could. I think I want because there's all these like shard sort of limitations, but they seem to be held to like agreements between the shards because the whole thing is everyone, especially Wit, doesn't want Odium to leave Roshar because he's bound by some promise. So it's like, could you take up Honor and just like get out of Dodge real quick? Maybe I don't know, or maybe you're stuck on Roshar. Who knows? But I mean, it's prime real estate. Who's gonna be there when Dalinar goes to like become a god? What if?
Yeah, and there's no way Dalinar's doing this. By the way, like it's so on the nose. I think it's just trying to point the finger away from Kaladin, who I think is going to 100% still be Honor. I think we might get into a position where we're sharing the shard. I think there might be some shard sharing going on, possibly. We'll see, because we're about to talk about Shinovar, and I think there's a chance that all shards are in Shinovar anyways.
So we're about to talk about Shinovar. All right. There's a lot to say here.
So I mean, anything else from the sibling? Because, I mean, this is pretty big.
I was just saying, like, I have this overwhelming sense of dread at the moment, or like that there are people double-crossing others. And I'm starting to get suspicious of everyone. I'm like, why is the sibling kind of like offering this information up? Is the sibling sus? Like, I'm just looking for imposters everywhere. But I like what you said about the Ghostbloods, because there's got to... Obviously, there are reasons why Sanderson pairs point of views together. And it could be simply for pacing. But it would be nice if there was thematic ties, right? And that he wants you to connect some dots, and like Ghostbloods and Honor's power laying around. That could be a cool little
being encapsulated against their will.
There's a lot of that because we've got Bam, who is in a gemstone. We're gonna get her out. So like, yeah, that should all be on our mind. But I think the way Honor is left, wherever he is, or like, I just don't think there's anything that we're going to be familiar with, because it's a spiritual realm. But yeah, dude, Shinovar. Oh my god,
we've been waiting.
Oh, we've been waiting, and let me tell you, like, I'm
so excited for these flashbacks, bro.
Sanderson like got his quill out for this chapter. He wrote freehand these opening paragraphs. He went Tolkien mode on this. He's like, I'm going to describe the hell out of these trees. I'm going to get my similes, my metaphors. Like, don't you think he kind of popped off and there's like this initial description?
I'm also sitting there just like, why do you pick that word? Why do you pick this word? I'm sitting there just with my tinfoil hat on.
The opening, okay. Hard. Do you want to talk about the opening line? Do you want to just talk about that one real quick?
Yeah, it's pretty serious stuff, huh?
Yeah, okay, so let's get it. Szeth, son Neutro, found magic upon the wind, and so he danced with it. I mean, say no more, really. So,
banger.
It's not capitalized, but I think we can somewhat make a connection there, right? Finding magic upon the wind. Like, is this the wind? Do you know what I mean? That we've been introduced to?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering as well. And maybe it becomes capitalized because of something that's happened between 26 years ago and now.
Right. Yeah, like, is this Szeth because it's his point of view as a child? Is this not capitalized because he doesn't realize?
Yeah, right. That would be a little clever thing to do. I like that.
Yeah. And how much does the wind play into things? Is it compelling him to like, what kind of influence does the wind have? That's my question too. So, I mean, there's so much to talk about. I'm just trying to make sure I don't go into the next portion of the chapter and spoil upcoming things.
You take the reins and you run with it, because you did a cross-examination. I mean, you got a lot of time. 2 years invested into this.
Yeah. All right. So because I started reading it and making my new notes, and it's just interesting how the wind is described with the tree and Szeth thinking he could hear the oak's soul trying to escape.
Yep.
Which, I mean, just a few chapters ago, Szeth says that he can't remember a time where he hasn't heard voices. So if he's hearing anything, I'm like paying extra attention to it now. And I'm kind of like thinking maybe he actually is hearing that. These aren't just beautiful metaphors. Because let's be real, Sanderson isn't like a super flowery writer. So this kind of feels like flowery, but also like utilitarian because it's telling us that Szeth is hearing stuff. Is that how you take it too? It's like,
yeah,
like he's all about the window pane prose, right? So I don't know. I just kind of thought like he thought he could hear their souls trying to escape. I was just like, okay, well, maybe he actually does. And then we get like the whole there is a family stone situation. So does every family have a stone in Shinovar? Is it just Szeth's family who has a stone?
It feels like the stones are handed out or claimed by families, at least to me.
Right. I don't think maybe like, yeah, they're not touched. That's for certain. You can't touch stone. You can dance around it. So maybe like wherever you live, it's like, oh, this is our stone or whatever. But as this chapter continues, and you even see it now, like Szeth is much more serious about the whole stone deal than at least his sister, who's like, dude, can you just calm down with your like dancing and seriousness? He's like, no, I must be perfect. And we kind of see like that Szeth is still somewhat the way we know him, being like a very like hardcore by the book, rule following perfectionist, very serious guy, even as a child. Even though he's still quite carefree, and it's like there's a touch of innocence in his description, like we see the beginnings of like the Szeth that follows the oath stone and takes his oath seriously.
Yeah, you can see the building blocks or foundations of his personality even 26 years ago, which is great because like it definitely feels like a younger Szeth with a little bit more of that innocence and childlike behavior, but still has things that will grow in and also be formed by the experiences that he ends up going through.
Yes. And we have all this epic stuff happening, and he's like dancing around the stone, and then there's like a sheep that's just like eating it, just like chewing on the edge of the stone, just like a dopey. That'll be another plushie coming soon. And then I'm sure, yeah, I hope so too. At least it's not a ram, as we learned last week. They can be quite traumatizing for some characters. But yeah, hey, look, what did you make of this flute? I want to hear you theorize about this flute.
Well, Whit knew that this was going to be important, right?
Yeah, so like his sister has a flute. And it's not like every flute is a major like theory moment, but to be fair, we haven't seen all that many flutes. But what I started thinking of, like, he's talking about magic on the wind and they're dancing around this stone and they're playing a flute. So I'm just like, are the Shin people in touch with the tones of Roshar or whatever? Because we know that when Hoyd was playing the songs for Kaladin and there was this kind of echo delay or reverb, it was the wind playing it back to him. So it's like, do they know about that? That's what the question I started asking myself with his sister here. Maybe they're interacting with the wind without realizing. And an interesting change I noticed when he's describing the stone protruding out of the soil, it says like the eye of a spren.
Oh no.
But before he said it was like the eye of cultivation. Said the cultivation's eye. And I'm just like, so why did he change it just to spren? Is it because they're not meant to know about cultivation in Shinovar? But that seems like a really obvious thing that he would never write in the first place if he knew that was wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, and also, you know, I was saying I wouldn't be surprised if all the shards are in Shinovar. Like, do they have a different way of talking about them because of that? Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
I mean,
another.
I'm taking my theory as fact, so clearly that's not doesn't need to be answered actually at all, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, well, there's like, sorry, I'm really trying to make sure I don't go into the next chapter. I'm just
Oh,
trying to.
into what comes after this.
Yeah, yeah, because there's some stuff I do have answers to, but I won't do that. Um,
Thank you.
well, there's a few other cultural things, right, about their splashes, their colors. They wear like one singular color. Um, and this whole kind of mindset of adding and not subtracting, which kind of checks out with the whole farmers being at the top of the hierarchy thing, because farmers are adding. And whenever his sister suggests that someone would kill anybody, he's like, no, they would never subtract. So he has this whole, there's like this whole mindset of Shinovar that you are here to grow things and not take things away. And I think that clearly is like going back to the days of when they've come from Ashen Shinovar,
Mm-hmm.
and like
I
they've got this mindset, right?
I really like that. Like, oh, they would never subtract. That just felt like you really were sitting in a totally different culture
Yeah.
with different verbiage, everything.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Completely. And it's so weird that it feels alien. Like it actually naturally feels alien, even though it's something quite familiar to us.
Yes.
Yeah. And then okay, there's the honor blade stuff. Did you catch like this mention?
Yeah, it sounds like there's some honor blades in is it monastery? Is that what they said? The
Yes.
monasteries?
Yeah. So they said they've
And
got
there's shamans?
Yeah, and they've got stonewoods up there. So they're
What?
like casually mentioning like a radiant order. Oh, like the stonewoods up at the monastery. Oh yeah, 26 years ago. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
No
Dude.
worries. It's like quite sus. And I don't actually remember. I think in the first version of the chapter it just said the stone shamans, but like actually calling them stonewoods is kinda weird. But look, we've heard Venley like talk to the stones in that brief moment. And I'm wondering if like the stones, because it's called their family stone, like when you die, you go to that stone and it's like your whole it's like almost like a grave, you know,
Oh,
where your
dude.
where his whole lineage is like tied to this one stone,
Or when
potentially.
we die, we become like all right. All right. I'm not I feel like there's probably already reasons why this wouldn't work. So I'm just gonna say it and
Yeah.
just ignore me.
Yeah.
But what if you die, you become some sort of like spren that ends up, whether it be a stone or something, like reincarnation type deal,
Yeah, like
right?
you inhabit something,
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. And then that would put a whole different moral dilemma and ethic dilemma on Navani and what she's doing with the spren.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, because now we're involved, so now we got to care about the morality of the thing. Yeah. So, okay, I'm quickly gonna check this because I'm tied between the old version and the new version of the chapter. Okay, so here we go. We're talking about like there's people on the coast that seem to like raid Shinovar, and him and his sister are talking about like what are they gonna do? Are they gonna come and attack us and stuff? And his sister says, do you think that the servants of the monasteries will ever come out and fight for us, use the swords during one of the raids? And then he freaks out. He's like, the shamans would never subtract. And then she goes, Mother says they practice with the blades. I'd like to see that. Hold one. Why practice except to... And then he goes, they will fight the Voidbringers when they arrive. That is the reason. Don't speak of the swords. If the outsiders realize the treasures of the monasteries. And she goes, I like to see them try and raid a monastery. I saw an honor bearer once. She could fly. And then he just like, he's like, stop talking.
Who is this honor bearer?
Right? Well, in the version from 2 years ago, she mentioned the servant, like just one, and references a she who's training with an honor blade. Whereas this new version suggests they have a lot of honor blades, maybe all of them, right? So there is a monastery with stonewoods, apparently, who are training people to use the herald's blades, which if you get a herald's blade, you also get basically the radiant powers they had. You can do all the cool stuff they did. That's how Szeth was able to do lashing and stuff in the prologue, because he had an honor blade. So obviously one of them ends up with him. So what? Which also suggests also might check out our theory that the prelude takes place in Shinovar, because that's like where they put all their honor blades in the circle and abandon their oaths. But also that was all like stones and stuff. So how would the Shin people get it? I don't know.
Shin is the key to so much of
and
this.
And you know what? I just thought of something. How do we know Shinovar even existed at the time of the prelude? We don't know that.
We don't know that.
I never actually thought of that. When was it added? Was it added after the prelude? Or before the prelude? Been. Yeah, it could have been, right?
Oh my gosh.
Or was like Shinovar like a magical thing, right? So it's like the land was there. So let's just say you left the blades. People arrive from this other planet. Oh no, it may have already been there because the heralds are from Ashen. So it probably is already there. But like for some reason in my stupid brain, Shinovar is like literally a chunk of another planet that was like copy pasted onto Roshar. But what's probably more likely is it was a normal rocky portion of Roshar that was magically transformed into like the Shire, right? Not like literally like a flying continent. Right. So I was wondering, I wonder if where the honor blades were left was then transformed into like Shinovar, as we know.
Well, yeah, and then the monastery, and also, the mention of Voidbringers was kind of interesting, just because we've had so many conversations about, well, who are the real Voidbringers, right?
Yeah, so they must have a whole different idea of that in Shinovar. Like, what's their definition of a Voidbringer at this time?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, maybe it is the more traditional one of like the fused and stuff, because their interpretation probably derives from whatever the heralds went through, seeing as they have their blades. But it's very weird. And then she loses her flute, which is another weird detail. And then
lost the flute. Is that the flute that Wit gives?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
It has to be. It has to be, dude.
Do you think so? It's that? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think a big part of the climax of this book, or moving into it, or at the very peak of it, will be Kaladin playing the flute that Szeth's sister had, and Szeth doing a dance around a stone. Like, I think that is definitely going to be a climactic piece in the Shinovar storyline. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
It could be cool, but like it seems like, yeah, we're getting these things right about that are lining up with Kaladin and Szeth, and this kind of musical element. Tying to Shinovar is definitely, yeah, you're right. It's going to be relevant. Whether or not it's the same flute is another question. Then there's a new rock. Oh my gosh. Watch out. There's a new rock in Shinovar. And he freaks out. And when he says this is the first stone he'd ever seen emerge. Now, I'm like, is this stone literally emerging, or have you just like broken up the soil? It's underneath. Like, it's kind of hard to imagine how this, because if stones are emergent, that's kind of weird.
That is something that we've talked about, though, is that the stones are alive. Yeah. And sure, we can talk about Spren or inhabiting, but like literally, I think the stones are going to be like coming through. But I don't know. There's no way it's a thunderclast or anything, right? Like,
I don't think so. Like, I wonder if it's like Roshar kind of taking itself back a bit. It's like it knows it's not the natural order of things to have this greenery, and the stone's like, oh, I belong here. Like, they're slowly taking back the natural scheme of things. I don't know, man. I don't know. Lots of questions. I hate that the chapter ended here because it gets so damn good right after this. Anyway.
And and I don't, which is always unfortunate. But.
Yeah, I mean, and we can't spoil the viewers, but just know the next Szeth flashback is going to be awesome. And it raises a lot of questions about
it does.
Szeth. Like, I start to think that, like, because like the honor blades, as far as we have known, have been in the possession of Szeth's family. Like, in the current story, it's always like, oh yeah, my family were minding the blades. But in his childhood here, they're up in some monastery where they're training superhumans. So like how do we get from point A to point B?
And where are all those people right now? Are they still just hanging out in Shinovar waiting for this big? Are they going to be Here Comes the Cavalry for Roshar? Like,
I just feel like their mindset is too at odds with the rest of our characters. Like it seems like their concerns are so different to our whole gang up near the Shattered Plains. Like they've got their own business, but there's obviously but there's an unmade there, and I wonder if the unmade, right, is like already there in this flashback, influencing people. Who knows? But whatever belief or religion they have, Szeth's completely bought into it. Whether it's real or not, he's like fully committed and he wants to do it right. Yeah. I mean, that's my Shinovar rant over, I think. I don't think there's too much else. Was there anything else for you?
No, I think that's about it. I mean, the big thing is the blades, I think, being there. And then just like, the big cliffhanger there at the end as well, which we will find out.
Yes.
We'll be able to piece it together Monday when the chapters drop, right? It's Monday.
Yeah. Tuesday for me, but yeah. What time do they drop for you on a Monday?
I have no idea. I always read them on the weekend, so that's why I asked Monday. I'm like, right? Is it Monday or Tuesday? I gotta remember.
I mean, usually I do that initial read and then I read it again, but not this week. I guess with that we'll squeeze in, seeing as we had so many, just a few bad jokes. Why not? And I'm leaving it to the audience this week because they were doing good work, and they just did so many. It's like, let's hear it. All right. So what are the rules, Jimmy? What are your soundboard reactions? And what do they mean?
Well, the air horn signifies a banger. Obviously, and then everything else will be decided at the time. I mean, we have some crickets, we got rim shots, we got trombones. I mean, I have it all. I got record scratches, but I think for this one, we're going to have to go with an air horn would be a good one, and if it's a really amazing one, I'm going to hit him with the applause, I think.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Have you looked at any of these?
I have not.
Oh, that's great. That's the way to be. All right, this one comes from Madeline R. Thank you so much for these. All right. What's a Kremling's favorite movie? Sleepless in Seattle. Sorry, I should have let you have a chance to respond.
It's pretty good.
Come on. Sleepless in Seattle. That's good.
It's good. It's almost too good.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
it's a great joke. It's a good joke. It's solid. It makes sense.
Yeah, damn.
We like, hey, how about this? Well, we have a little.
All right, okay. Yeah. Give him that. Give him that. All right. Next one from Madeline. What did the wind say to the rock? Nothing. It's a dead eye. Nah. All right. And this is a real bad joke. This is like a terrible joke, but we'll throw it in there. Okay. What do you call someone who makes Cosmere theories?
I don't know.
Invested.
Rim shot.
Oh no, Madeline, you've
The Sleepless is a good joke.
Yeah.
That's just a good joke.
You've missed the memo of bad jokes. Damn. All right.
They have to be like a mixture of like clever, bad, and good. I don't know. I don't know what the secret sauce is. But
man. I haven't shared my recipe yet with people, it seems.
The secret spice.
Yeah. All right, here we go. I'll do a few more. Then we'll wrap this up before Jimmy unalives himself. Okay. This one's from Martina from Italy. All right. Adolin, how do you turn a bunch of peasants into lords? Dalinar replies, unite them.
I mean, I don't hate it.
I mean, I kind of love it.
You know what?
All right. Yeah, we got one.
We'll hit him with the air horn. We haven't had an applause one yet, though. Okay. That's the top end.
That's because I saved the best till last. All right. This is from Andre. Okay. And he's kind of riffed off one of my punchlines, but I like it.
Ooh, I like plagiarism.
It. He's evolved it, which is good. All right. Okay. This is so bad. Oh my god. Okay. What does the pirate say after losing the duel to Adolin? And where does said duel take place? Colinar. Oh, it's a tough week for the bad jokes, guys. You can't win them all. You can't
win them all. We did not have any jaw droppers. You know, I'm looking for the one where I'm just like, really? Someone wrote that? That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty more in the span read offices. Well, but I wanted everyone to get their moment in the sun. A lot of you guys sent in bad jokes.
And I do love this, by the way. I love that people are doing this. I think it's fantastic. And yeah, the sleepless joke was probably the best one, actually. Now that if I could go back, I would have gave it the answer.
Yeah, and you know what? I want someone to Photoshop Sleepless in Seattle and to make it like a Kremlin in Seattle with like the whole movie poster.
Oh, get up. The movie poster, dude.
Yeah, and I want 2 Kremlins in Seattle.
I love it, dude.
All right, let's keep this snappy, man. Let's get it under an hour and wrap it up. As always, guys, thank you for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next time as we jump into the next set of preview chapters.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. And if you have questions or theories, span read us at lostandroshar@gmail.com, including your bad Stormlight jokes. We'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar. And remember to keep that safe and covered.